Right, and so infiniteness actually is a really great potential definition for mastery. Is that if you are truly a master, it is because you realize that it never ends. You realize you're always upgrading, you're always evolving, there's always more, no matter how badass you are, no matter how conscious, no matter how amazing you are in comparison, in relativity to anything else. It just is what it is, and there's always more, there's always more, and there's always more. And so I as a master, you as a master, we as masters who are able to honor a word, honor a definition, honor a state of being, while also simultaneously let go of it and not be defined by it, but be living, breathing now based on whatever is now. You know, it's like I can just sit here in the rain and I can just breathe and feel that contentment, that fulfillment, that peace, that amazing, all-encompassing, completely expansive perfection. And that's my now. That's my mastery right now. And then at the same time, you know, I could be surfing this huge wave, you know, and someone might look at that as mastery, but they wouldn't look at sitting in the rain as mastery, but I see them both as mastery. It's just a different form of mastery.
Awesome. So one of the things in this subject of like new paradigms and new potentials coming through in form, one subject I wanted to discuss with you that I did a little session with myself on was this idea of aging. And I heard you say one time, and I would totally agree, that aging's not natural. And then it occurred to me that maybe it's normal meaning prevalent, but not natural. What are your sort of opening thoughts on that?
Well, you know, from my experience and also my observation of the universe, one of the things that's really obvious to me is that change is always happening. Change is always happening, and it's all on a different scale. It's all on a different scale. If you look at something, you know, like water, it's always changing its form. It's evaporating from water into a gas, up into the sky, and then it's turning back into water, falling to the earth, evaporating up, and that cycle is exchanging. You could look at the cycle of a tree. One of my favorite is, you know, we've got these pecan trees in Texas, and they grow up in the spring, and they put out all these leaves, and they start growing all these nuts, and there's these bugs, these birds, these animals that are living in the branches. They're eating the food, they're taking shelter, they're being safe from predators, they're making nests, they're growing their young, and that tree is simply drinking that water. It is, you know, taking the nutrients from that land. The leaves fall into wintertime, and those leaves turn into compost if the birds and the bugs and the animals don't use them for nest or for shelter or for burrows or for food. And it's that cycling that's exchanged. So those leaves are decomposing into soil, turning back into the tree and back into leaves. So that exchange and that cycle is playing out. In the water, it's playing out everywhere. In the stars, you can see it too. It's just on this huge scale that's hard to observe because it's in the millions and the billions of years, which for humans is really hard to comprehend. But everything is always changing. It's all in this cycle. So aging or change is, yes, it's normal, it's an absolute, and yet it's also relative. And what is it relative to? Well, it's relative to consciousness. It's relative to consciousness because water is consciousness, trees are consciousness, plants are consciousness. And if you look at a flower, you know, it grows in one season, then it's dead. Whereas if you look at a redwood tree, it's living 100, thousands of years, right? They're both plants, but they're living at a different pace because they have a different seed of consciousness, and that seed of consciousness is dictating their experience. So, as we become masters, as we start to contemplate the infinite realms, we realize that yes, it's all infinite, but there's no way to understand infiniteness by definition. The only way to understand infiniteness is to let go of the definition of infiniteness and just sit in that space. So, like for me, you know, I'm on this razor's edge because I'm speaking at conferences around the world, and I've got all these audios, and I just wrote a book, you know, Full Spectrum Health, and in my book I say, aging is not necessary. Now, is
Nice.
it right? Is it normal? Yes, but it's not necessary. Now, the only difference between it being necessary and unnecessary is consciousness. And so, as we get to a level of infiniteness, and we're able to sit in that space, well, I'm on this razor's edge because I'm saying all of these things which apply to time, and a lot of people don't believe me when I say, aging isn't necessary, and maybe they will believe me in 300 years. Right? Or maybe I won't even be here in 300 years. I don't know. I know that it's possible for me to live for 300, 1,000, 2,000, 12,000 years. Doesn't mean I will. What I do know is that my consciousness, my life, it will be alive in some form. What that form is, I don't know. And that's all dictated, that's all relative to what's important to me now. And what is important to me now is being alive, is being in this body, is being on this earth, is exchanging with these plants and these trees and this air and this water and these masters. And I enjoy having a youthful body. I enjoy having a beautiful body. I enjoy these things, right? So that's important to me, and so that's going to flourish. That's going to thrive. What's going to be important to me in 10 years and 20 years and 1,000 years, I don't know. And that's the only thing that really dictates it. But here's the big importance, is that I'm open to that infiniteness. I have contemplated, I have experienced, I have understood without understanding the infinite realms, and therefore I know it is possible without attachment, without expectation of how that impossible or that possible plays out.
Nice. Powerful and powerful stuff.
Woo!
One word you said that stood out to me is that you said they may not believe me, and that's one of several factors that are influencing the idea of age is belief. And, there's the individual's belief, and it's whether or not and how it's linked to the sort of collective belief. And we've pretty much been, through our own evolution, conditioned to that. Aging and everything that comes with it physiologically, biologically, is just something that happens. So it's like there's this default signing up for that that pretty much, most people just get born into that. And so It's like they're choosing into that and influencing the very fabric of their existence.
Right. Oh, God, it brings up so much. When you just said that, yeah, it's like it's almost built in, because it's not only is it an individual consciousness, but it is a collective consciousness as well. 99.9% of every human on Earth believes in aging. They believe in sickness. They believe in disease. Now, for me, like sickness and disease, for me, those are totally obsolete. They're not even things I experience anymore. Now, that's something I can prove, and that is something that a lot of people do believe from witnessing me. But aging, not even aging, that's like the next step. Well, because it is this collective consciousness, people are being born into that. And what's so interesting is it doesn't have to be, but it is. And the reason why it is because that collective consciousness believes that that's the way it is, and that's the only way it is. Just like a long time ago, everyone believed the earth was flat. And that's the way it was.
Right.
Everyone believed that. You were born into that. And if you said it wasn't, you were fucking crazy, and you were killed because you're insane. Right? And so I'm saying insane things now, right? But it only sounds insane to the collective consciousness or the individual consciousness that doesn't believe in or believes in the exact opposite of what I am proclaiming or professing or prophesizing or simply speaking as my truth. And there's a lot of life, most of life really is dictated by that, because people are being born into that, and that's why in the new paradigm all sorts of things disappear. Education disappears, religion disappears, all the collective organized systems and formulas for belief and for living, they disappear, and we begin to tune into, in the moment, truth. The relative truth, the infinite truth, the ever-changing truth of now.